All right, welcome back. So last time we were talking all about Mimi, our favorite cat, and how she makes decisions, for herself. But here's the thing. Mimi doesn't live on a deserted island. Her choices, they totally affect other cats, and their choices affect her. So let's see what happens when her world gets just a little bit bigger.
And here he is. Meet Mock, Mimi's new neighbor. And just like that, the whole economic picture gets way more complicated, but also way more interesting. I mean, how did two cats, who are really just looking out for themselves, manage to live side by side and maybe even do better together? Well, that's the big question we're tackling today.
It's just like with people. Every decision a cat makes kind of creates these ripples that spread out. So today, we're going to unpack 3 big ideas in economics, the ones that really explain how all of us, people and cats alike, interact with each other in this giant marketplace we call life.
Okay, first up, the magic of trade. Now, I get it. It's super easy to think of trade like a game, right? Like sports. One team wins, the other loses. But in economics, it doesn't work that way. Not at all. In fact, trade can and usually does make everybody involved better off.
So, let's break this down. What's so cool here is you can see exactly how this plays out. You've got Mimi, who is an amazing hunter. She's basically the neighborhood security guard against mice. Then you have Mohawk. He's a total charmer, right? He can get his owner to give him delicious pâté any day of the week. Now, if they try to go it alone, what happens? Mimi's safe, but she's starving. And Mohawk? He's full, but he's living in constant fear of mice. It's a lose-lose. But what if they specialize and then trade? Mimi handles security, Mohawk handles the food, and boom! They both get exactly what they need. That right there is the power of trade.
And of course, this isn't just a cat thing. The legendary economist Adam Smith was talking about this centuries ago. It just makes sense, right? It's so much more efficient for all of us to just focus on what we do best and then trade for everything else. I mean, think about it. You don't grow your own food, build your own car, and write the script for this explainer. Nope, we specialize.
All right, let's build on that with our next big idea. So if Mimi and Mott can trade, just imagine a whole neighborhood of cats, all trading stuff, like fish for catnip, the best napping spots for grooming services. It sounds like total chaos, doesn't it? How on earth does all that activity get organized? I mean, really, who's in charge? Is there some, cat king sitting on a throne telling everyone what to do? You go hunt, you go nap. Who decides that one grooming session is worth, say, 3 fish? Well, the answer, it might surprise you.
The answer is nobody. Nobody's in charge. In what we call a market economy, all the decisions are decentralized. That just means that millions of individuals, or, cats in our example, are all making their own choices. There's no big boss, no central planner. Mimi goes hunting because she's hungry, Mock turns on the charm because he wants some of that pâté. They're just acting in their own self-interest.
And here's the crazy part. This system, where everyone is just looking out for number one, actually works incredibly well. Adam Smith, that guy again, he came up with the perfect metaphor for it. He said it's like an invisible hand is guiding all of these separate decisions, and somehow it leads to a good result for the whole group.
So for our cats, let's call it the invisible paw. And what tool does this invisible paw use to direct this whole economic orchestra? It's simple. Prices. Prices are the signals that guide everything. Think about it. If a ton of cats suddenly want fish, the price of fish goes up. And that rising price, it's a signal. It tells other cats, hey, you should probably start fishing more. See? No cat king needed. The market just organizes itself.
Okay, so if this invisible paw is so amazing, why do we even need rules? Why does a cat need an owner? Well, here's the catch. As powerful as the market is, it's not perfect. Not by a long shot. Sometimes it just plain fails. And that's when you need a government or, an owner to step in.
First things first, the owner has to enforce property rights. To put it simply, a market just can't work if you can't be sure that the stuff you have is actually going to stay your stuff. I mean, a farmer isn't going to bother planting crops if she thinks someone's just going to come along and steal them, right?
Let's go back to Mook. Say he does his thing, charms his owner, and gets a big, beautiful bowl of pâté. Awesome. But then, out of nowhere, this big dog from down the street runs in and gobbles it all up. Well, what reason does Mook have to try and get more pâté tomorrow? There's no point. It's gone. Without an owner there to enforce the simple rule that Mook's bowl is Mook's bowl, the whole system just falls apart.
All right, another reason for the owner to step in is something called an externality. It sounds complicated, but it's really just a fancy word for a side effect. It's when one cat's actions affect someone else who wasn't part of the deal, for good or for bad. The classic example, pollution.
So, back in our cat world, let's say Mimi decides it's super convenient to, do her business in the neighbor's beautiful rose garden. For her, it's great, but for everyone else on the block, it creates a really bad smell. That smell is a negative externality, and the market all by itself isn't going to fix this. Why would it? Mimi has zero reason to stop.
And then there's the third big problem, market power. This is what happens when one single cat, or maybe a small group, gets complete control over something important and can basically charge whatever they want for it. You know what that's called? A monopoly.
Just imagine, there's this one tough cat. We'll call him Brutus, and he takes over the only fish pond in the neighborhood. He's the only game in town for fish. So what does he do? He starts charging ridiculous prices, like 10 mice for one tiny little goldfish. That's not efficient, and it's definitely not fair to any of the other cats. The invisible paw just can't do its job if one single paw is holding all the cards.
And all this brings us to our last big principle for today. Governments, or in our story, the owner, can and sometimes should step in to make things better. You can think of the owner as a referee. Their job is to make sure the game is played fairly and to blow the whistle when the market just isn't working right. So, how does the owner actually fix all these problems? Well, first, they protect Mock's bowl. That's enforcing his property rights. Second, they lay down a litter box only rule to handle Mimi's pollution problem. And third, they step in to make sure Brutus can't get away with charging insane prices for fish. All these actions help make things more efficient and fair, which lets the market get back to doing its job properly.
All right, we've definitely covered a lot of ground in our little cat economy today, so let's do a quick recap of the big takeaways from the adventures of Mimi and Moke.
So first, we learned that trade isn't about winners and losers. When everyone specializes, the whole economic pie gets bigger for everybody. Second, that invisible paw of the market is an amazing way to organize everything, using prices to send signals. And finally, even the best markets need a referee, the owner or the government, to protect everyone's stuff, deal with side effects like pollution, and make sure no one is cheating the system.
And that brings us to a much bigger question. If these basic rules work so well for cats in a neighborhood, why do we see huge problems like inflation and unemployment in entire countries? Why do some economies boom while others bust? Well, to answer that, we have to zoom way out, beyond Mimi and Mock's backyard, and look at the entire economy. And that's exactly where we're headed in our final explainer, when we dive into the big ideas of macroeconomics. I'll see you there.